It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Of course, we begin here at home as Vice President Kashim Shettima has stressed the urgent need for girl-child education in the country, warning that a child out of school today would become a threat to the nation tomorrow. Shettima spoke in Abuja at the inaugural International Conference on Girl-Child Education organized by the Nigerian Governors Forum in collaboration with Rivers State Government, the World Bank, Platform and Federal Ministry of Education. The conference, themed the Girl-Child Empowerment through Quality Education, was intended to address barriers such as child marriage, poverty and gender-based violence hindering girls' education. Shettima, represented by the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, that's Senator Ibrahim Hadejia, highlighted alarming statistics, noting that 25.6% of primary-age children and 29.6% of secondary school-age children were out of school in Nigeria. Also, the House of Representatives at a special session honored a 16-year-old gender advocate, Isabel Anani, to become a shadow speaker, with Speaker Tajuddin Abbas temporarily vacating his seat for her. It's part of events lined up to mark the International Day of the Girl Child.
Gender-inclusive budgeting and gender-inclusive policies should be made for girls to empower and protect them in making sure that they maximize their full potential. Safe schooling is very important because there's simply nothing for girls if she cannot have the education because she lives in constant fear. Sanitary pads and hygiene products should be made available and they should be made as cheap as they can be. The good thing is that we are already halfway there, and every day we are a step closer to achieving these goals. Also, there isn't just one solution, but hundreds. There isn't just one girl to talk for, but millions. In order for us to continue at the steady progression that we have so rightfully ascertained, we mustn't just provide her a seat at the table. Finally, I congratulate all the women in parliament that have pushed through and broken stereotypes. Girls around Nigeria aspire to be like you. And to all the he for she's who uplift the girls they know and to continue striving, we see your efforts.
The House is worried about this disheartening high number of out-of-school girls engaged in drug abuse as well. Current data indicates that Nigeria has an estimated 10.5 million girls that are out of school who are also users of hard drugs. The House is worried that the presence of such a vast number of uneducated youth not only jeopardizes their future, but also poses a threat to the nation's security and socioeconomic stability. If deliberate efforts are not taken to address the challenges and be intentional to protect the girl child, the country will be at risk of raising dysfunctional mothers who are meant to protect the home, society, and the future.
Well, it's International Day of the Girl Child, and great to see our lawmakers and leaders add their voices to the call.
I mean, I'm very excited that they're adding their voices, but it's a bigger problem. So apart from it's International Day for the Girl Child, which we recognize the fact that women are mostly, and the girl child is mostly affected in this out-of-school starts, because when you look at the numbers, it's about 25% for out-of-school boys, but for girls, it's about 26 to 27%, heading up to 30% in this country. But when you drill down, you see that there are some states that are big touch points, states like Kebbi, states like Jigawa, states like Zamfara. You've got over 60% out-of-school children. So in an economy where you have 60% out-of-school children, definitely, you know, it's a ticking time bomb. There's going to be economic malaise. People will not be able to replace other people in job. You will have lack of skill. You have lack of competencies. I mean, it is said that nations that do well in the PISA rating, you know, the rating for education, for numeracy and all of that, nations that do well in PISA rating have a knock-on effect on their GDP. The knock-on effect of growth on your GDP is tantamount to your educational sector. So when you have increasing numbers like that and people are quickly and steadily getting out of school because of insecurity, because of the economic conditions and all of that, then you know you have a ticking time bomb. It goes back to the state because the federal government cannot do it alone. You have things like SUBEB to be able to aid the state. And when you look at our constitution, education is mostly posed to the state. But what are the state governments doing? They complain that they don't have enough funding to be able to push on this. What are the laws they are putting in place? Because when you also look at it, it cascades down to the problem of primary school enrollment. Obviously, when you have a high number, close to 50% people not enrolling in primary schools, then definitely you're going to have a heightened number of out-of-school children. So what are the solutions quickly? Number one, we need to put more power back to the states, get more funding in, but also ensure that the money is effectively used. Number two, take education to people in nomadic areas, Fulani farm, nomadic, Fulani communities and all of that. Take the education to them. Number three, use a lot of technology. Digitization can be able to bridge the gap, have more remote schools and the likes for children. Number four, also help, proliferate their learning methods by impacting their welfare. How do you do that? Ensure economic viability of their parents.
Very well said.
Okay, today is the International Day of the Child, 11th October 2024, a day that is marked every year to look at, the concerns of the girl child, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world. The theme for this year is Girls' Vision for the Future. In other words, what hope, what possibilities can we give the girl child? The girl child who has been, assaulted by a number of factors, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Child marriage, number one. Female genital mutilation, inheritance issues, rape, labor, digital gender divide, and a number of other issues, including inclusion and representation, which speaks ultimately to the fact that the girl child, is excluded, marginalized in society. I think it's a very good development that both the Nigerian Governors Forum and the House of Representatives yesterday devoted the occasion to celebrating the girl child. In a country where some people in a part of the country, will say that they can marry a girl that is 13 or 14 because their religion, allows it. In a country where many children, have had to run away from the country because of female genital mutilation. In a country where we have been told that in specific states, the girl child has been out of school up to 64%, 66%, despite the fact that the UBEC Act, that's the Universal Basic Education Act, says that parents that do not allow children can be held liable. Well, where in Nigeria has this been held? At the House of Representatives, yes, they had Isabel Anani doing, a speaker for a day. And that was encouraging to see, because the whole objective of today is to show that the girl child in Nigeria has infinite possibilities. Every girl child can become an Okonjo-Iweala, who is an enduring symbol of inspiration for young girls in Nigeria, can become Chimamanda Adichie, and can become all the wonderful women, that we have, your good self, Vimbai Mutihiri Ekpenyong, Jineka Okpe, and Ayomairo Ese. These are role models. It's for government to commit more to educating them and addressing the challenges that they face. And Vice President Shettima struck all the right notes yesterday when he said the education of the girl child is very important. I recall two books, African Girl by Adwazi, Kezia Adwazi, which talks about the importance of the girl child, the value of the girl child. And also Sisi Dagaremba, she's a Zimbabwean author. In 1988, she wrote a book called Nervous Conditions. And in 1989, she won the Commonwealth Book Prize. And I had the privilege of teaching that novel, Nervous Conditions, in one high school in the United States when I was a Humphrey Fulbright scholar in the United States in that year. So in those two novels, for those who want to read something for today, they will see how important the girl child is and how the girl child needs to be protected across the range and be protected from rape, genital mutilation, all kinds of abuses. That is important. And I think it's very good that the Senate, where we have some of the characters who marry girls at 13 and 14 and claim that, their religion permits it. I hope they will learn today and they will listen to what Vice President Shettima said and the example that was set by the House of Representatives yesterday.
Absolutely, very well said. And of course, we always appreciate he for she. International Day of the Girl Child, of course, is something that's very dear to me as a woman and as a mother of a girl child as well. And also flows into Women's Day and Women's Month and all of the initiatives that are being pushed globally and of course locally for gender parity. You look at the numbers here in Nigeria and they're discouraging. The overall figures for out-of-school children are extremely devastating. However, when you look at the statistics, UNICEF puts girls out of school at 7.6 million. However, I just heard the lawmaker quoting 10.5 million as the figure of girls that are out of school. Now, in the speech that was given on behalf of the Vice President, which of course was a very amendable call to action, there was a focus, however, on the northern part of the region. However, for me today, I want to make it a broader conversation because when we do talk about out-of-school children, yes, the concentration is in the northern states. However, when we talk about the girl child, it's important for us to expand the scope of our outlook and our conversation. And that's why I want to focus on Cross River State and the Bicheve tribe. Cross River South specifically, where the custom of selling girls to repay debt is still rampant. They are called money marriages, and young girls are sold for as little as 10,000, 5,000 naira, or even sometimes goats. And they are sold into slavery, into the men who are so-called the wealthy or powerful men of the area. And they never leave the slavery because often their fathers who sell them are never able to repay these debts. So this is an ongoing cycle, and this is a long-standing and a long ongoing practice that has been going on in this part of the country. What does it highlight? It highlights the fact that there's still a lot of work to be done with regards to our cultural norms and sensitizing ourselves to the importance of the girl child, that the girl child is not a commodity. The girl child is not a sex object. The girl child is not an accessory. The girl child is an equal to the male child, should be just valued just as much in all cultures across not just Nigeria, across Africa. I believe the problem also exists in Asia as well, where we need to realize that the girl child can contribute to society equally and in some instances even more than the male child. So of course, we continue to commemorate International Day of the Girl Child here and, of course, across the country. Now to a developing story where Nigeria's main opposition party, that's the PDP, has plunged into deeper internal crisis with the suspension of top officials, including its acting national chairman and national secretary. Ambassador Ilia Damagum and Senator Samuel Anyanwu. The suspension of the duo follows a controversial letter they sent to the Court of Appeal contradicting the party's position on a case involving defecting lawmakers in Rivers State. Now, in a surprising twist, the party's National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, who issued the initial press release on the suspensions, has now also been suspended alongside the National Legal Advisor for alleged disloyalty and insubordination. The statement announcing their suspensions adds that their deputies have temporarily taken over as investigations continue. Rufai, suspension, counter-suspension, what is going on inside PDP?
The PDP is falling, and I think it's part of a grand plan for Nigeria not to have an opposition by 2027. Because also, when you check the Labour Party now, another federal high court has ruled in favor of Abure, and the fight continues in Labour Party. So it's part of a plan, deliberately not to have an opposition. And you know the dramatics personnel that are being used, they're just used to quicking it. And a lot of people are playing God in the PDP as we speak. So the factionalization has started. That suspension caught them unawares. Then there was a counter-suspension. I remember the last time we had, what's his name now, the former National Publicity Secretary, Kola Olubudiyan. And I was talking tough about how things were in disarray in the PDP. And I remember before now, he was always saying, no, we're going to settle things out. No. All of this is part of the grand plan orchestrated. And that meeting speaks volumes yesterday to ensure that the PDP is totally destabilized and it's gone. By the time it will be close to election, they might be able to wriggle something out, but it has already greatly destroyed the structure of the PDP. And that's what is going on here. And you're going to see more as regards any viable opposition in the coming days leading up to the 2027 election. But are these opposition political players, are they going to wait till they take this bait and they're destroyed? It's only incumbent on them. So that's why I advise opposition leaders to shun away their personal ego and come together for the interest of this country, because the plan is rife and it's part of the classical plan.
Okay, what are the facts of the case? One, you have at one level the National Working Committee suspending the chairman, acting chairman of the party, Ambassador Damagum, and suspending also the national legal advisor of the party on 2 grounds. Namely, that there was a petition, that was a position that was taken by both persons in the matter of the River State crisis in the Court of Appeal, and that the chairman, the acting chairman, had caused to be written a letter to the Court of Appeal, which in the statement issued by Debo Ologunagba violates sections 58 and 59 of the PDP Constitution of 2017 as amended. And that on that basis, these 2 persons have been relieved of their positions. But the big issue is that the PDP now has been factionalized, it will appear, because it's not just the National Publicity Secretary and the legal advisor that have been asked to stand down. A committee has also been set up under the leadership of Honorable Ambassador Taufik Arakpaja to investigate allegations against all these persons. Now, what the party is talking about is indiscipline, is anti-party activities. And to people who are outside the PDP, they will be wondering, okay, you are talking about anti-party activities. What happened to the G5? What happened to the other persons who worked against the party expressly and determinedly? So this is the conundrum that is there. But it is very clear that the PDP seems to be going through a rough patch. In the same River State issue that they cited, the Court of Appeal has just unanimously said that Governor Fubara has no case, and that in any case, having withdrawn his own allegations after the meeting with President Tinubu, allegations that are not challenged, will be deemed to have been admitted as true. And that was why Justice Omotosho in January, ruled that the governor of Rivers State could not go and present budget to 4 persons, because that's in violation of Section 91, I think, of the 1999 Constitution. But of course, the governor's side is saying, Section 109(1)(g) will apply. But you see, there's a lot of confusion within the party, within the within the PDP. I do not want to import motives. I do not want to say, there are conspiracy theories behind all of this. But it is clear that the party itself has issues of internal democracy.
Absolutely. It seems where we are now with the PDP was inevitable as we saw things begin to play out prior to the 2023 election. And unfortunately, the party seems to be failing the test, the true test, which is, are the politicians who are active in the PDP, do they love the PDP? Do they love what it stands for and what the opportunity of governing this nation means to them? Or is PDP, like some of the other parties, or rather most of the other parties, is it just a bus that is being used to transport politicians from point 1 to point B in order to fulfill ambitions? Now, there were a number of issues that could have been tackled. But again, when we look at the issues of indiscipline, you now wonder, it was blaringly obvious. We all know the issues at hand. We saw the G5. We saw all that transpired during the campaign. It was glaringly obvious to all. But the fact that the PDP was unable to call the G5 to order, number one. The fact that the PDP was unable to abide by its own MO with regards to representation and the regions that need to be represented in leadership. All red flags. and boil down to the point that I'm always making, which is that we won't go far for as long as we continue with politics, politicians, and political parties that have that don't stand for anything, that have no philosophy, but that are, again, just buses that are being used to transport politicians from point A to point B.